Welcome to the episode 487, I think it is, of the Mastermind Shortcast with Dr. Derek Israel. Today, what I'm gonna do is something that is pretty exciting and also make me very vulnerable. But I have been thinking lately as my self identity of an artist that I have and that I have been cultivating. And it is something that also I have been teaching you guys for the last couple of years, mostly on Spanish. And now we are conducting this type of philosophizing on English also. But something that I have been teaching you guys is the importance of becoming more artistic in your life and also acknowledging that in your core you are a creator and you are an artist. So I have been doing that a lot lately and participating in spaces in which artists come together to talk and to express and to share ideas. And my mind has been very contaminated with this good vibe, with this good light that it has been surrounding me the last couple of weeks, that I decided in this shortcast to do something more artistic and more like a performance, but also kind of art therapy, because every art process is a healing process and I cannot separate that from anything else that I do. So I know that this shortcast, as its name suggests, it is supposed to be short. It is supposed to be brief, and I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do that today in this particular episode. I have been noticing that I have not been able to record the shortcast in the time frame that I was expecting. I was expecting recording them in at least, I don't know, maybe 8 to 15 minutes time frame, and I have been going a little bit longer than that, and today definitely we are going longer. But I just want to say that this is so new for me, this type of format and the editing software that I am using, and the type of model and proposal that Shortcast have, transcending the podcast, overcoming the structure of a podcast instead of a shortcast. That, for me, I am also learning and I am also experimenting a lot. So I don't have all the skills yet. This is part of the process. I am here open with you guys because I like also to expose my experimentations. I don't like only expose my successes. I also want to uh to ex to show, to offer, to display the procedure, the step by step in which a man or a woman can achieve mastery in something meaningful. And that is what I'm trying to do here in the Mastermind podcast and in the Shortcast as well. So, yeah, it will not be short today. It will be long enough, at least for the art's sake, for what I'm gonna do. What I will do is I'm gonna do a self portrait in a podcast format, and I think that is kind of cool. But because artists, from the beginning of human history, we have been doing self portraits. A lot of Van Gogh's famous paints are self portraits, and also if you search for Picasso's self portraits, you will see some of them, some spectacular works, and also musicians and lyricists. They also do a lot of self portraits in their songs. Also, a lot of cinema. You can see a lot of movies in which the director and writer was writing his own life. And in drawing, you can see self portraits. You can see self portraits in philosophy also. For example, if you study the theory about strange loops, that philosopher, and he was also an artist, he discovered that the ultimate strange loop is his unconsciousness, is himself. That's why he have a book that is called I Am the Strange Loop. You should research that. It's a fascinating masterpiece. And so by him conducting his philosophy, he discovered that he was talking about himself. That is a strange loop. It is also a self-reference. It's another concept that people used to refer to this kind of auto-similar work that we always do when we are doing art, in the sense that we are creating what we are, and art is what we are. It's like auto-similar. It is like self-recreating. It is a fractal portrait of our souls, and our souls is mirroring itself in the world. It's like a strange unus mundus is basically the concept that the alchemists used to refer when they were talking about this kind of strange loops and the union in the metaphysical life. So for me, self-portrait, it is a way of rediscovering who you are through an art form, and I will be doing one on podcast today. So I have a direct challenge for you if you are doing the Mastermind Podcast Challenge Season 2. And the challenge is the following. I want you to do a self-portrait piece. I don't care what is the medium that you will utilize. You may do a drawing about yourself. You may be doing a painting, music, type of music, or maybe a song, or maybe a poem, or maybe a theater kind of piece, or maybe a essay, a blog, a video, a podcast, a dance. I don't care what type of medium of art you're gonna use, but I want you to today, after this podcast, you do a self-portrait piece of art. And if you don't know what it's all about, Google it. But I'm just telling you, it is a piece of art about who you are. Who you are. And the beautiful thing is that during the piece of art, you can rewrite who you are, because it's a meta consciousness. Meta means beyond. You go beyond your consciousness, and you can heal a lot of aspects of it through the art. We call that art therapy. So that's why I told you guys that I was about to do art therapy. So yeah, that is the direct challenge. Also, remember that I opened the group in Telegram for the people that are following this podcast. So go to the link in the description and join the group. It's free. The vibe will be awesome. I soon will be doing and conducting more instructions in the group. So have patience. I am just opening the doors for, accumulating alike minds, similar minds that are looking for personal development techniques, challenges, personal development frameworks, models, hacks for achieving a great life. And if you are following this shortcast or podcast or challenge or everything that I'm doing in socials, well, maybe you're in the same boat, and maybe we should connect in our Telegram group. So go and apply for joining our group. It's gonna be totally free. So another thing that I want to say before beginning officially with my self-portrait is that I composed the music on this self-portrait. So I made the beat, and for me that is pretty awesome because I am not a professional beat maker or sound engineer, but I have been experimenting for the last 1 year with music, and now I am feeling more comfortable in applying and mixing my art with sonic technology. So I hope that you enjoy this kind of music art and piece, and also my self-portrait about my history. And remember that this is my self-biased history. By no means this is the accurate thing that happened to me, in which and that has made me who I am. That is a self-portrait, right? I am just going to overvalue and highlight here the things that my mind think that made my mind as it is, or like made me who I am today. So by no means this is an objective kind of you know uh, autobiography. This is a very subjective, very mystical, poetic, chaotic, with improvisation, improvised auto portrait. Okay, self portrait. So enjoy. So my name is Dr. Derek Israel. I mean, just Derek Israel. But okay, my full name is Derek Israel Ortiz Rodriguez. Yes, better known as Dr. Derek Israel, and I was born in Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico is a great country. It's amazing. It's a paradise, a lot of beaches, crazy sun, the best green ever, the best rice and beans ever. And also has the most beautiful woman like in the entire world. It's crazy. And I was born there in a small town. Well, it's not that small in comparison to other. Okay, I'm back. My wife just entered the studio, interrupted me, and she left. That's what wife does, right? Okay. Okay, so it's not that small in comparison to other towns, but I mean it's small because it's like crazy isolated and it's very weird. You can Google it if you don't know what is Lajas. That is basically the name Lajas, Lajas, Puerto Rico. And you can search it. It's a place like very weird. Like it is so weird that literally we have an airport for aliens in our town. That is a town that is apparently haunted, and also it has a lot of monkeys and aliens. So it's a crazy town. Maybe that's why I'm a little bit crazy. So I was born there, and I was born almost in the middle of a forest, like in a very rural place. And yeah, I spent my childhood mostly playing no video games, but imaginary games. That is something that I always tell people. Like when people ask me, hey, what is like the most impactful and significant experience of your life in terms of your childhood, I say maybe the fact that I spent a lot of time in a house of a nanny, that I got very bored there, because I didn't have anything to do beside playing with my mind. And I play the most amazing things in that house, and I spent thousands and thousands of hours playing imaginary games, building universes, building worlds, building entire narratives of meaning. I didn't know what I was doing, but then after, studying a lot of psychology, I understood that I was basically developing the capacities of my personality, because that's what you do when you play imaginary games. That's why it's so significant when you are playing with your children to play in a way that they will be expanding their personalities during the imaginary game, because what happened in the imagination happens in the identity. Those not are separate systems. So now I understand that, now that I'm a psychologist, but back then it was just play, the instinct to play. And so I spent a lot of my childhood in playing just imaginary games. And also I think that helped me a lot as an artist, because as an artist, what we do, we build universes. That is our role. If you are Van Gogh, you build the Van Gogh universe. If you are Shakespeare, you build the Shakespeare universe. If you are Walt Disney, you build Walt Disney universe. That is what artists do. So I was recreating the artistic process in my imagination, and also creating art. I used to write a lot of stories and do a lot of drawings and sing a lot, write a lot of music, and that was it. Then I was growing up a little bit, and I become interested in basketball. So here's the thing. My father used to play a lot of basketball when he was young. Never professionally, but he was a top guy in the courts, according to him. Maybe he was not the top guy. I don't know. I was not born there, obviously, but I think that we all have that father that think he was the big ass in something. So maybe that was my father in basketball. So my father always was interested in basketball, so he invited me one day to play, and I started to play, and I fell in love with it. I fell in love with the fact that competition is a thing, and that you can strive for more, and that you can push reality to exploit boundaries, and that you get transformed in that whole process. And obviously I can word that today in this context and manner, and back in the day I didn't know. I just play game, and I became pretty good basketball player, but also in other seasons I became a very bad basketball player, and it all depend on my mood, right? And when I was having a lot of fun with basketball, when the season had meaning for me, I performed like the very best. When it was the contrary, and when I was playing just for extrinsic factors, or just because I just want to move my body or do something besides school, well, I then had nasty seasons. But that gave me a lot of leadership skills, I think, because I saw the contrast. I understood the contrast about being the best and being the worst. And I think that is also something that helped me today, being able to understand contrasts, because how you can know what is to be happy if you are never sad, or how can you know if that woman is beautiful if you have never seen a woman that you say, oh my gosh, I will never date that. You need the contrast. You need the contrast to understand the thing with deepness. So, also, I was a very hyperactive guy in school early on, and I used to have a lot of problems in school due to that. My father and my mother always says that I was a natural leader in my school, and I always had like groups following me and always were magnetic and charismatic in this sense. But I don't remember perceiving me like that. This is just now looking back and with another structures on my mind, like the opinions of other people. But if I go back there in my mindset, I just wanted to have fun. And I made a lot of friends. I was very talented making friends, because one of my natural talents, and that is a talent that I don't use that much today, and I should be using this more often, and definitely I will, and is that I always had the talent of being funny and making people laugh, saying some jokes, saying some over the wall things that people just had fun with me, and that obviously opened the world of people to you. Humor is a bridge for connection, and I always had that in my early years in school. But then I hit, what is that, middle school, and that was kind of a hit, because all the schools on my town were meeting in only one school, that was the middle school. And so that was like kind of shocking, all the dynamics, all the power dynamics, all the social dynamics that someone that is reaching adolescence needs to go through. And also in that age, I was starting to feel a lot of interest for women, and that was kind of fun, being able to understand physically what sex meant, what sexual energy was, not in those terms, but more like in a embodied state, more like in my experience. And then I went out of my town for the first time to go to my 8th grade, and there I met a lot of new people, and it was a pretty interesting time in my life, because I understood that art was something that I wanted to do for life. I understood there that I was an artist. In 8th grade, I began doing a lot of shows for my school, like kind of in the backyard. For example, comedy shows, stand-up comedies, and singing, writing, rap battling, acting, a lot of performance art. And I received a lot of applauses and a lot of boos also. Like, not everything that I did was good, but I made some friends, And then I came back to my hometown for the next year, and I came back with a dream, the dream of being a singer, a rapper, specifically a rapper. And I tried that a lot during that year, but I didn't have the success that I was expecting. So I dropped out that dream, and then I went to high school. Right? And high school was another shock because I was suffering there a condition that we can call it delay development physically and also maybe mentally and emotionally, in a way that I was getting short. I was falling behind in the height, and I was the most shortest of my friends, and that is not a good thing to be, at least in that moment. At least it was not for me. Maybe some other short people have different experiences. For me, it was not good because I was, the mini me. I was the little man, and I didn't want to be that, right? So, but I always maintain the hope that I will be stretching my body and achieving a good height. But at the same time, I remember I got involved in this gaming world, and I always used to be a gamer. That was not something new. But what was new for me this time is that it opened up the world of online gaming for me. And this time was with Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. And then I became obsessed with this game. Like, when I mean obsessed, I mean obsessed. I didn't sleep for days, for weeks, for months. I played all day. And I didn't play just for having fun. I played exactly as I play everything in my life. I play for mastery. I play for achieving certain heights, achieving certain states of dexterity, of skills, of ability that give me that energy and self-worth and power of domination, of self-domination, of self-mastery, of self-conquering that I am always pursuing with every endeavor that I do. So I went head on, and I started my own group back then. We were called the RIP Plus, rest in peace kind of letters, acronym. So RIP Plus. And yes, we were tough dogs in the game sphere, and I was a leader there. But then I got in love, and you know how is love. And I got my hormones hacked, and everything that an adolescent may experience, and I went wild. I definitely went wild in this stage. I started using alcohol, and yeah, it was a crazy time for me. So we are right now in let's go with 11th grade. I didn't start. I started using alcohol maybe in 12th grade, like in the final year before graduation in high school. But in 11th grade, I think something very important happened to me, and I think that I suffered an episode of depression when I was in 11th grade. And maybe it was a depression, maybe it was a existential crisis, maybe it was a dark night of the soul. I cannot say with good amount of accuracy exactly what it was, but I went down deep to my soul, and everything, went normal. I didn't fall behind in academics or friends or anything like that. It was all normal, but inside myself, I like discovered this sphere of not this sphere or this dimension of uniqueness, singularity, this dimension of being that it shocked me so much. Maybe my ego, it was not prepared for that kind of wisdom in that age, and obviously emotionally I got reactive to that. I got a little bit scared, but by that time, thanks God, I grew up in my height, so I was emotionally and physically taller and more mature. But having an existential crisis in 11th grade, well, it's not that uncommon. A lot of adolescents have those type of crisis, but I was not expecting it, because most adolescents have the crisis of the identity, who I am, or maybe sexual orientation, who I like. I didn't have, I guess I have some crises around that, because a lot of crises are just unconscious and you don't kind of know. But the conscious crisis was about this one, about the realization that I was an unique being. And that I was not interested in the things that most people was interested in. And I had to learn how to love that and accept that about myself. So yes, it was a tough challenge, and it was a death and rebirth for me. And then when I hit 12th grade, the last year, I transformed. Like my whole personality transformed, and I became a very popular guy. And I mean, when you are in high school, that's what you want. It's more important in high school to be popular socially than to have all A's in your grades or all 10s, because the social structures in the adolescent mind are so essential, more than academics. Academics are a new invention. They are not ingrained in a reptilian mind, but social dynamics, social structures, when you are an adolescent, dude, that is the maximum configuration. That is the maximum understanding of yourself. So yeah, I have a blast in that year. I was very rebel, and I was not the most liked guy in my whole class, but also I was bringing something to the table every day that I think that people could appreciate about me, and that was authenticity. I was real, I was authentic, I was honest, and sometimes that gave me a lot of problems, and sometimes that gave me a lot of opportunities. So I almost failed, and this is, I think, an important part of my life story. I almost failed physics. So I have a very good GPA in high school. I always have this ability of having a lot of fun and being the clown of the class, but at the same time having good scores. in exams and in academics. So I almost failed physics and I didn't know if I was gonna be able to go to college. So that was a pretty bad experience, but I passed almost. I failed. I think that I passed with D, something like that. But because I had so many good grades, I was accepted in two different universities with two different paths that I was thinking about what I want to become. What is the role that I want to do in society. And one of those alternatives was to be a psychologist, because I always have been interested in forensic psychology and also in sexology. But another part of me wanted to be a lawyer and understand better politics, social sciences, and the law, and how you can use the law to help and to serve. So at the end of the day, I went with the path of psychology, and I entered my first year with the same attitude that I had in high school. Very ignorant, but also that gave me a lot of opportunities, a lot of problems. Also, I had a lot of discussions with professors. I had a lot of social conflicts with people in that first year, but I adapt. And something that happened to me that year is that I discovered two things. One is that you can decide to become something, and that decision can be definitely, like, I literally decided couple of days before my first day of bachelor, I decided that I was not stopping until I was a doctor. Like, I decided that playing video games one random day. And now I understood that, that was something that I learned in that first day, is that the determination is king if you are determined rightfully. The second thing that I learned is that determination works better if you fall in love with the thing that you are determined to. For example, I was determined to become a psychology doctor. But for that, I had to love psychology. And thank God, since the first book that I opened about the human mind, I got my jaw dropped. Like, my whole mouth. Oh! When I start reading about neurons, about imagination, about creativity and problem solving, about decision making, emotions, stage of development, neurosis, diagnosis, personality, archetypes, philosophy, the science behind the psychological studies. When I start seeing the infrastructure of the industry that I was going through or starting my journey on, I felt in love with it. And I remember taking my classes and thinking, I don't want to be an average psychologist. I want to be a great psychologist. I want to be one of those that actually make a dent in the universe of this industry by obviously making a dent in the universe of millions of people, or people that you are actually impacting with your work, right? Because your work needs to have pragmatism, something practical, something that actually make a change. So I was thinking about that, and I made some promises. But at that time also, I had a crazy journey with my pause. I used to be one of those guys that party a lot. And that is something that I am very proud. Sometimes I am like, man, if I just use those hours to read and to study more profoundly everything that encompass and require my life purpose, probably I will be now more than a beast that I am, because I will have more hours in my pocket of preparation, of training. But that is only my ego. I know that I had to party, because if I didn't party, I will be now, like right now I have 27, I will be now saying, I should party more, I should drink more, I should have more fun. And that thought is never on my mind. Never. Because I had a blast with my friends. We were crazy ass. And definitely I enjoyed that stage of my life. I don't know if I will recommend that to someone, or if I will recommend that to my son or my daughter. But yes, that's my life story. And then I fell in love with a very old, not a very old woman, but a woman that was older than me. And I moved out of my house, first time ever in that relationship. I had I think I was 21 and she was 29. And that was a significant difference, because we were both in different stages of development. But also that gave me perspective about what is the adult life, and about how you can survive without the aid of your parents, and the importance of flying away of your house and becoming independent. And also I had a couple of things going on in my life in this stage. For example, I used to participate and be part of the ROTC in my university. That is basically an army program for cadets and preparing people to be leaders on the army setting and also in the ordinary life. And I trained with them a lot, and I learned so much about leadership, about organization, about details, about commanding. And also I went to a training that it was called Leadership Training Course in the United States, in Kentucky, Fort Knox. And I spent a whole month there working with that organization, with the army, and damn, man, that gave me so much. Another thing that gave me so much is that I got initiated in a fraternity that is called Phi Epsilon Chi since 1943 in Puerto Rico. And that is a boys-only kind of organization that is non-profit and that are very spiritual. And there I became president of my chapter, and that served me to understand the importance of executing leadership in organized ways when you have the potential to do it. Because if you don't do it, then you will hate the direction that some organizations take, and then you will think about it and criticize them and talk shit about them. But at the end of the day, who didn't do nothing or do something to change that? You was, right? It's an extreme ownership kind of deal. You're responsible. So I understood that I was responsible to taking direction of that organization in that point in time, and I enjoyed a lot, and I learned a lot, and I um, did a good job, I think. But then that magical phase of bachelor end, and in 3 years and a half, I already had all my classes covered, and I graduated in 4 years straight, and I had to make a decision. So in that moment in my life, I already was working in a promotion kind of business. I also did some working on a social media brand that was very popular back in the day and still popular today. It's called Poca Vergüenza, like shameless in English, I think is the traduction or translation. And anyways, so I used to work in that type of setting: marketing, sales, social media, promotions. But I had to make a decision because I had a lot of money. I was doing a lot of money with that job promoting, because I am a salesman, like very natural. But I remember that I made a promise to myself that I was about to be a doctor someday, no matter what. So I said, okay, forget about the job, let's go. And I then took the exam a couple of months, with advance, before graduation. I took the exam and I passed the exam to applying graduate schools, and I applied some graduate schools and I got accepted in one of them. And the thing is, in order to be accepted in that graduate school, I went straight to the boss without applying to the university, and I just knocked his door and said, hey, my name is Derek, Israel Ortiz, and I want to be here. And I had a conversation with him like for 45 minutes. And then I made my essay that day and my application that day, and I entered the university. And I think that is an important detail, because sometimes you need to go straight on to the head of organizations if you want things to happen. Sometimes it pays off to be bold, to be courageous, and to do things differently. I knew that I was late in the deadline, but for what I was not late? For innovation. For innovation, I was early. For innovation, I was ready. So I did that, and I started my journey. I moved out from Lajas to Ponce, Puerto Rico. And I became president of my class because I thought that if you reunite people with talent into a common goal, great things can happen. And I was determined to doing that, and I did with my organization. We did great things. And also, it was a challenge in the sense of the intellectual demand that a doctoral program puts into you For example, I didn't went to my master first. I was doing my master and my doctoral in the same program. So it was kind of an adaptation process, but thanks to my teammates, my classmates, we were close. We were friends and we support each other. And we were able to going through to that process. Not all of us finish. Obviously, some of them drop out. That is part of the selection process, I think. But most of us, we kept fighting, and we are, well, I already graduated. Some of them already graduated as well, and some of them are almost there. And that's pretty cool. At the same time, I began my project. I began my product. I began my brand. Okay, so we're talking about 2016, and I had this crazy old vision in a meditation after doing a lot of meditation, in which I was leading a movement of personal development, and I didn't understand why the hell I was having that kind of vision in a meditation. But then I understood that in meditation you can collapse time and you can see stuff. That's what meditation do. And I became determined to materialize, because one thing is to have an insight about your future, or to have an insight about your path, about your passion, about where your soul wants to go. And another different thing is to actually materialize in that, with effort and with power. So I went all in and I started my project. It was called Terapia con Derek, or Derek's Therapy on English, or Therapy with Derek. I don't know exactly how you will translate that, but maybe Therapy with Derek. And the first couple of videos were making a lot of noise in Puerto Rico, and I got an appointment with my university. Some of the representatives of my university, they were not liking too much, my content. So I shut down my operations because I was confused. I was starting this journey as a graduate student and starting my own project, my entrepreneurial project, and one of them wanted to kill the other. Like, one of the journeys wanted to conform my soul. And I went to a very deep mode of being in those days. I didn't know exactly what to do. I didn't know if I need to drop out of my university and go all in with my project. I didn't know if I should wait until I graduate and then go all in with my project. But then after 3 months of meditation, I decided to change the name to Derek Israel and to go all in my project while becoming a doctor. So I did that, and it was the right decision, because I was able to do both. Yes, I didn't have all the energy to dedicate to my project in social media, the personal development project that this mastermind podcast is part of. That I didn't have 100% my energy, but I did the Pareto's law, and also I did a video about this, in which I dedicated 80% of my energy to the project and 20% to the doctoral program. And I found that formula for me worked. But I don't recommend that formula to everyone, because you should know which numbers indicate better returns of your investments. So you should measure with self-consciousness. So at the end of my first year, I went to India and I spent a whole month there, and I got a very enlightened experiences there. I came back from India and I exploded in popularity in my country. In Puerto Rico, I was invited to talk in a lot of private companies, universities, colleges, schools, and I did a lot of them. Some of them are on my YouTube channel in the conference reproduction lists. But then my country got attacked by a hurricane that is called Hurricane Maria, and we all, entrepreneurs and students, got a little bit delayed by this phenomena. And I was having a lot of success with Facebook, and then Facebook had this strategy or change in the algorithm that was called Facebook Zero, and that hacked me all my reach that I already developed in Facebook. So that was kind of bad. But then I decided to start a podcast, and I started this Mastermind podcast, and that gave me a little bit more of momentum. And then I did my first event that it was called Derek Israel Experience. That event was on Puerto Rico. I expected more success with that event that I had. It was a very good experience, although I learned a lot about launching a big project. And though Derek Israel Experience definitely is one of that experiences that it changed forever my life in a good way. And then I became a parent. So I got involved with this witch. She's called Crystal Madrid. She's my current wife. And we were both in the same university. We were both psychology students. And we were both fans of philosophy and psychology and art. So the conversations began, and suddenly we had a daughter, and she's Italia Magna. That is the name of my daughter. And in 9 months, I got my whole life transformed. Literally, I got one of the most profound transformations of my life during those 9 months. I did a lot of yoga. I changed my diet. I changed my habits. I stopped alcohol. I stopped partying. I stopped hanging out. I stopped all the dementia, all the craziness. I stopped everything. And I became the king, the father, the pattern. I didn't have any choice. And I am not mean that I am perfect, but at least I was deciding. At least I was choosing. And then I moved out from Puerto Rico to Colorado, United States, and I worked my final year of clinical psychologist student as a clinical psychologist student in the prisons of Colorado. and I learned a lot there. And now I am currently in Arizona, full time in my business, the same one that started in 2016, the same project, different man, different vision, different journey. So that is the most filtered, biased, contaminated self-portrait that you can hear in your life, because it's impossible to do it in another way. This is art. But never a self-portrait really ends with the present. A real self-portrait ends with the future. So when you are doing yours, take also in consideration that you need to think about the future things that will happen to you, that also can influence your present. So let me say how I see myself in the next years, just to have a little bit more teleological approximation in this piece, in this art. How I see myself is building a great world, a great metaverse, a great message, a great movement about consciousness, love, compassion, success, high values. And I see myself doing this in different arenas, different methods, different businesses. And I see myself helping millions of people around the world, while I am a present father to my daughter and to future kids, and while I am also an extraordinary husband to my wife, a good son to my parents, a good brother to my sister, and a good friend to my friends, and most importantly, a good slave of God. That is my determination, guys. I hope that you enjoyed this self-portrait. I hope that you got to know me a little bit better. Now that I changed language, I'm pretty sure that a lot of people, new markets, new ears will come to the podcast eventually. And maybe this is gonna be a good foundation to understanding your host, Dr. Derek Israel. And a lot of things are about to be told. Like, I haven't written my whole history. This is just my one tiny piece of 27 years of story that I obviously turned into art. So remember that you have a challenge to do a self-portrait. Remember that you need to go to my Telegram group and join if you are interested in participating profoundly in these episodes that are every day, Monday through Friday, 4 a.m. And also share it on socials, share it with a friend, and go to derekisrael.com for more information and to see everything that I have to offer to you. Bye-bye.